Sweet and Peachy.
Hello and welcome to. Oh, fucking hell, stop. No. Right, we're doing that bit again. Right, shush. Hello and welcome to this week's Sweet and Peachy with me, Lizzie.
And me, Lee, from Lena's Sweet Life and Foodie Book Club.
This week, as promised, we are going to be having a really wonderful discussion about childbirth and the aftermath.
They're already my vagina's going like that.
I know, yeah. No more for me. No more children. It's delightful. It's a really magical experience. I don't know what else to say. It is, yeah, it is.
All right,
actually.
Yeah, let me start off first of all by just those people. First of all, turn away now if you don't want to. If you don't want to know anything. No, I'm not going to.
I thought you meant you were going to show something. I was like, Lee, it's not that kind of program.
No, but I mean, just people who don't want to, think about all this. But it is. But can I just give one fact, which that your uterus grows over 500 times its normal size during pregnancy. So, I mean, and it's like. It's like passing a melon through a lemon size, the size of a lemon.
Yeah, that explains the burning sensation. I'll come on that in just a minute. Yeah, so I think you've got 2 children, haven't you?
I do.
Yeah. And I've had 2 children, albeit I've also now gained 2 additional children, which is just wonderful because I haven't had stuff leaking.
I was going to say, well, the ones you birth easier, the ones you didn't have to give birth to, they were the easy ones to give birth, weren't they? Come in, invite you in.
Literally, yeah, because I was one of those people that was horrendously poorly during pregnancy, like sick all day, every day, and for about a week afterwards. Like really bad problems with dizziness. I had PGP when I had my second. Just pelvic girdle pain, so I ended up being induced because I could hardly walk. So some people are glowing and look really well and are so healthy. Oh God, I hate you. And I just wasn't. I was greasy, spotty, everything swelled. Honestly, I remember when I had the baby, both times, looking down and be like, oh my God, I have ankles and not cankles. It was unreal.
I have to say, I was that awful person. I loved being pregnant. I adored both times, adored it. The first time with Charlotte, I didn't enjoy the birth, and that's another thing, right? But the first time with Charlotte, I can remember walking to meet my husband at the train station. I was 7 months pregnant. As I walked past this particular shop, I got a wolf whistle. And it wasn't until I turned around, I know, I felt so freaking, my skin was gorgeous. I've never felt so sexy in my whole life. I was like this walking sex hormone. I mean, I was the randiest thing ever. And poor husband, you just get home but yeah, I felt like I had no spots. I had no sickness at all. I'm so sorry, none at all. I didn't even feel sick. Nothing. Wow. No swelling. And also things like stretch marks. I mean, I don't have any stretch marks.
Really? Okay.
I don't know.
So,
people.
Yeah, I mean, I had one after having Ruby, my eldest. Because when I was pregnant with her, my bump was tiny, but I had a really big baby. Because the midwife literally was like, where were you hiding that?
Yeah, how big were your kids? How heavy were your kids?
So Ruby was £9.4.
Okay.
And then Sophia was 8, 7.5. And do you know what the first thing I said? Sorry?
Sophia, the first one?
No, Sophia's the second. So Sophia was 8, 7.5. She was smaller. And the first thing I said was, she's so small. Because I was expecting another like bruiser of a baby. Because with Sophia, I was enormous. I was so big. And yeah, I had this really small baby. Well, she wasn't even small, really, was she?
Yeah.
She was
no,
average,
because
but...
I mean, do you know what's funny when people say how heavy is your baby? You go, oh, it's 6 pounds. You go, that's tiny. And you go, oh, that's a good weight. No, Charlotte was 7 pounds something, and Matthew was 9. I was 10.5 pounds when I was born.
Jesus.
I know. Oh, and my mum was 5'1 1/4 and tight. Oh, I mean, I don't even want to know what went down here, what horrific thing was going down on her bits and pieces, you know, when she had me. I mean, good God.
Are you the youngest or
Yeah,
4 or 5?
Four girls. Yeah, I was the 4th happy accident, I think.
Your dad needs to stop tripping over his slippers.
An accident again. We've had that, and that's how people have affairs, isn't it? An accident. It was just like, yeah. But I know, and there's the whole. Oh, should we talk about what happens down there?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, the first one, Charlotte, was in the hospital. It was 36 hours labour. Out of hospital before I got there, it was 24. Right. So, because I went in, they sent me back. Went in, sent me back. You know, that sort of thing. And it was just the worst possible thing ever. And they went to there was no epidural or anything. It was just gas in air. And then I went to push, and vaginal and rectal tearing. It was just, and it was right, and it was a shift change. So the midwife, right when this was literally was that went, right, the other midwife was coming in, so she took over. She thought that she'd given me an injection to stitch up, which she hadn't, right? So she started to stitch up without anything, and I'm on the roof going, and of course the midwife going, oh, I can't possibly hurt that much. I'm going, what the? It was the worst ever. Oh God, I mean, I still get, God, you know, if you touch yourself down from the vagina to your bum, that bit, is it the perineum?
Yes, perineum.
Yeah, that bit, you can still feel the scar up there. It was like the worst ever. Oh God, just second one with Matthew, 10 hours start to finish, standing up. I delivered him myself. I stood there like that, leaning on the bed in the hospital, leant down, delivered him myself onto the bed. Fabulous.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it was like,
My second time was definitely easier. Like with me, really straightforward actually, just very long. So it started on like the Thursday night, and she didn't actually put in an appearance till Sunday lunchtime. And I was in active labour. Oh my God, it was horrific. But it was fine. It was fine. You know, the issue was she kept turning over, and when she turned over, she was moving back up. So I was like,
that's selfish, isn't it?
And I was pushing for so long, I was knackered. But no stitches. I had some really nasty grazes.
No stitches?
It was very long, but not like bulky. Yeah, and I was only 20, so that might be part of it, I don't know. But really straightforward. And then Sophia, I was induced. So I went in the night before, and they gave me like the pessary and whatever. They broke my waters at 11:15, and at 2:15 I was holding her.
Oh, that's just showing off, isn't it? Show off.
She did not want a crown. She was just like, no. You see that awful burning bit, like the worst bit, isn't it? Yeah, I had that for about 20 minutes.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? It's just, I can't, you know, are you clenching yourself?
Yeah, you can tell. That's he's like.
You know, yeah. And Charlotte, the birth of Charlotte was, I mean, we're all just doing this comparison thing, so sorry anybody who's pregnant, but you know, we all still have more, don't we? Charlotte she was doing this, okay, for a long time. So when she was born, a week later, I was breastfeeding her, and it was like a cartoon. She was lying there, and this lump started to come up on her neck like that, like an egg. Seriously, it was like a cartoon. You could see it happening. And I went to the hospital, rushed in because, but you know, and this is literally what happened. This doctor walked by, patted me on the head and said, oh, you can tell you're a first-time mother, but she might have cancer. Yeah, and it turns out he'd been on shift for like 72 hours. And what it was is she'd strained a muscle in her thing all the way down from, you know, the long birth. And we had to do physios for the next 6 months on her. It was awful. Bless her heart, yeah. Bless your heart, Charlotte.
Destroyed your mother's lady area.
Yeah, gone now. Yeah, and yes, I love being pregnant. I kept saying to people, I'll be pregnant for you. Yeah, I don't want to give birth, I'll be pregnant. Yeah. What about the placenta? Do you even remember delivering that?
Yeah, like with Sophia, I wanted to do it naturally, but for some reason they still injected me, even though my birth plan said I didn't want it. But I just remember it coming out and just being really hot on my legs.
See, I don't remember that.
And they were like, do you want to look at it? No, thank you. It was like a freaking alien. Take it away. It's like a big veiny I don't even know, what is it? It's hideous. And no. One thing that really got me was the sound when they cut the cord. Because it is like
It's hard, isn't it? It's a hard, thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
With like the bluntest scissors in Christendom as well.
Did you go back to like the postnatal? Did you have any postnatal classes or prenatal classes where you go around and they go, "This is how you breathe" and all that sort of shit, right? Did you have any of that?
Natal stuff.
Yeah. Did you go back afterwards?
No.
All right. Well, there was a thing at this policy because my kids were born at Kingston upon Thames Hospital, and I don't know if they still do it now. But they had this policy where if you had classes there, you went back afterwards to talk to the other new pregnant women, right? To tell them about the birth. Which is a stupid idea, isn't it? Because, come on, right? So we're sitting around there, everybody's going on about all these, and it was just so horrible. This woman next to me said, "Oh, it was the best orgasm I've ever had giving birth." And we all just went, "What the fuck?" Yeah, so she had the best birth because she literally had an orgasm when she gave birth. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's what she said. I can't remember who it is now, but
isn't it that a child got her off on the way out?
Apparently it happens because I'm like, I had to research it afterwards, and apparently it happens. Yeah, no, not with me.
In what world is labour like at all pleasurable? And magical when they put that baby on your chest and like you look at those little eyes, and it is wonderful, and it is everything's still hurting, but it just disappears for a few minutes because you're just like, oh. The first wee though. Oh, I was not prepared for that first time round.
Did you have a poo really easily?
No.
Did you have to
get the whole... too scared, and then you have to I had to just let it happen naturally, like peristalsis do the work for me. But then I just remember literally I was holding on to the house I lived in at the time. I had a sink on one side here and a bath here, and I was literally like, ah!
Like the whole world's going to come away, don't you, when you do that? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Another thing that because I was in hospital with Charlotte because at a different time, right? But I was in the hospital, and because it was such a weird thing, my blood pressure went up, and I've got really low blood pressure. Okay, so I'm like really low. If I stand up, sometimes or even if I sit down, sometimes I pass out. So anyway, I was in hospital. And I was in bed, and they were just putting it onto the ward, and I can remember saying to the nurse, "Oh, look, you've got really nice lights. Look at those lights are there." And the next thing I knew, I was in a side ward. I was being injected with Valium and all this sort of thing, because obviously my these lights weren't lights; they were me hallucinating. Right? Yeah. So I was in this side ward for a week, and they were just injecting me with things to try and get my blood pressure and all this sort of stuff down. But I remember there was a sink in the thing, and you know how you get used to people just looking at your bits?
Oh yeah.
I remember lying there.
I'm like chatting around, yeah, go on, crack on, it's fine, love. I don't need that bit of tissue.
I remember lying there, and people every half hour they'll come and do a check on me, and I'd go, check your stitches. And this guy came in, and I just literally went like that, pulled the thing, checked. He was to fix the sink. He was the plumber to fix the sink.
That is amazing.
That's a true story, right? And when I told that people go, no. I said, honest to God, it was a true story. I literally went, this poor guy couldn't get out there quick enough. I mean, bless him. Can you imagine what it's like down there? Can you imagine?
It doesn't look attractive afterwards.
Oh, no.
Less labour. I had this very conversation with Josh the other night. We were watching, there's a series on Amazon called Little Fires Everywhere.
Oh, okay.
It's really good. Yeah. It's got Reese Witherspoon in it.
Right. Okay, I'm going to see that.
It's really good. So we were watching it anyway, and there's this thing where she has a book club, actually. Not as cool as yours. And they were reading this thing that was basically like vagina monologues. And the book had been chosen by this gynecologist woman, and she was like going on and on. You should feel comfortable. You shouldn't feel ashamed of saying the word vagina and blah, blah, blah. Because Reese Witherspoon's character's like, can we not just call it Virginia? But then he said, have you ever looked at it? And
they didn't get the whole mirror thing out.
Not there and then. But then Reese has several more glasses of wine. Later on, in her very lovely, amazing posh house, she's in the bathroom with her heels still on, foot up on the roll top bath, and she's just like wetting herself laughing, looking at it in the mirror.
I mean, seriously, how often do you look at your bits? How often do you look at your vagina? I can't actually say the last time I actually
ever done it was after having a baby, because I was like, oh God, what does that look like now?
But since then, you know,
it looked deformed, and it was like bruised, like so bruised. And I was like, no one's ever going to want to go near that again.
You can do the whole. I mean, you didn't have stitches, right? But stitches, what happens is they get tight. If they get dry, they get tighter and tighter, and it's the most excruciating. You know, anybody's out there, please make a thing down there. Tell us how you cope with your stitches, because you know, look at Lizzie's face. Because one of the way I did was I'd get some peas, obviously, and I'd walk about with peas in my pants, because you never wear. Got all the sexy pants again, all the big pants, right?
I still wear them.
Or I'd have a really cold bath, and then I'd come out, stretch them, and then I'd get a hairdryer and on cold and did that. Oh, that I know. Hey, it's the most wonderful things to because it cools you down and makes the stitches dry, but doesn't make them go too. Oh, I'd spend most of my day between the kids feeding. In between sort of feeding the kids like this or whatever. Oh, it's honestly, it's the worst thing ever to have. Oh God, I can remember that feeling. It's nasty.
After Sophia, honestly, my bum was worse than the front. I had like the worst piles.
Something else they don't tell you about, do they?
No.
Don't tell you about the piles. Wait, what the heck is that? God gives you these things, like here's this lovely baby, and you've got great big grapes hanging out your bum. I mean, I'm sorry.
But so they hurt more than anything else. So you think I'd literally pushed a baby out of my body, but my ass hurt more. And then the really good fun bit, because I remember the midwife saying to me, and it's like, obviously after you've given birth, they stick a finger in your bum to check that you've not ruptured inside. I'm expecting it with Sophia, because I'd remembered it from the time before, but she was like, well, I'm here, do you want me to push your piles back in? And I was just like, what? Like, just add insult to injury.
But it's weird, because it's like the whole thing about women having periods. Nobody talks about it, and you go, what the heck? Why not? Because if it was that bad, they should be prepared. I mean, let's talk about periods afterwards. I mean, incessant bleeding for the next 6 weeks afterwards.
Yeah, that's all the fun, isn't it?
And that's great, isn't it? And then you've got
like elephant sanitary towels that you have to wear. Go from like halfway up your back to your belly button.
God, I mean,
Brussels, that's where you go.
Going out shopping with kids, especially your second one, because you've got the first one. Going out shopping with kids, right, just after, with this pants thing hanky, right? So you're thinking, with stitches, with this pad thing on, with the stitches going like this, with like, you've got this whole crampy thing happening. You've got a child screaming in the thing. You've got a little baby attached to some other part of your body because you're carrying it, or you've got, and then somebody says, oh, can't you stop your child crying? And I want to go,
no one ever said that to me. I think I would.
Oh,
although you know what? In our, like the town where we live, when Ruby will have been about 6 weeks old, and there's this notoriously annoying woman who used to work on the till. I don't know where she's gone. She was quite old, but she was just a nightmare. She used to comment on every item of shopping that she scanned. And she said to me like, oh, is this baby yours? And I was like, you think? Like, obviously I'm pushing the pram and I'm by myself. And she was like, oh yes, actually I can tell because your tummy's still a bit chubby, isn't it?
Oh.
And I was just like, I was wearing my size 6 jeans when she was 3 days old. So it wasn't that chubby, was it? Obviously that never happened again. The only size 6 thing about me now is my shoes. Yeah, I was super skinny back then, so I was like really fit and active.
That's interesting, because when you first have a baby, you've still got this.
That bag.
Yeah, because before I had Charlotte, I just, because media, magazines, and I was a bit of a magazine person in those days, right? And it had this whole, I mean, especially Cosmo, and I love a bit of Cosmo, although I haven't read it in years. But in those days, when I was younger, right, Cosmo was the thing, and you could figure out why you weren't keeping a man, couldn't you? And all that
stuff, like which crash diet was best for you.
Oh yeah, and how to satisfy your man. Forget about you, but anyway. So they used to have these thing about giving birth, and nobody mentioned that from weeks after you'd be left with this thing.
Empty sack. Yeah. I remember the first night after having Ruby laid in bed, because I always sleep on my front, and I hadn't been able to for obvious reasons. And I went to roll over because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to lay on my front. This is going to be the best night's sleep ever if baby sleeps. And actually she did. She slept all night. I thought she was dead.
I was going to say, did it scare you? Did it scare you?
Yeah.
Oh,
moved to life.
We all want our kids to sleep through the night, but the first time they do, we go, oh my God!
She was brand new and she slept through the night. That's what scared me. But yeah, I went to roll over and I heard my stomach hit the bed. Oh. It literally just went like, I was just like, what was that? Twigged in my stomach. And I was like, well, that is disgusting. Like, what? But yeah, so after all of that, you then, irrespective of whether or not you breastfeed, obviously, you will get the huge, like, Jordan boobs when you milk them.
You and I have already got nicely proportioned breasts.
Ample, yes.
Yeah.
I was a G when I was breastfeeding. They were literally like, I had to go to like a camping outlet to get empty bras. But I just remember, like, I hate to think what it must be like for women that, like, who don't want to or can't breastfeed, because the pain when you're already feeding the baby is extreme. So if you've just got to wait for it to dry up.
Well, I've breastfed both of them. I breastfed Charlotte for my benefit, not, well, obviously health business for her, but you know what I mean, because I'm that selfish, it was for me. But for my benefit, that she was weaned at like 3 months or whatever, but I thought nighttime I just still breastfed it because I wanted that till she was about 12 months. I still did that because I wanted it, because the only thing you can do yourself, everybody else can change nappies and feed bottles, it's that, isn't it? But with Matthew, and I love you so much, and he was the most gorgeous baby, blonde hair, deep brown eyes, white blonde, gorgeous, right? But for Matthew, who didn't like a breastfeed, I had I stuck it for 6 weeks, but my nipples were bleeding, and it was like the scabs were on it, and it was just I used to go and wait for him to attach, because I'd go, the pain was.
Yeah, and normally that's gone after the first few days, isn't it? It's, I remember it both times, and I was like, I've just got to get through these few days, and then it's fine. But
it was 6 weeks, and also I was doing it for me, because he was a grown man. I mean, like, he was a big guy, right? 9 pounds. He just was a constant, like he is now, constant eat. So he had to have bottles. Yeah, had to have bottles anyway. So it was, because I felt really bad that I wasn't feeding him me. I wasn't feeding him me. My God. So I felt Matthew, I felt really bad that I couldn't.
Well, see, I breastfed Ruby, and I planned to do it exclusively. I was really excited for this and so on for it. I'd read loads of stuff on it. I'd been to all the classes and everything. And she, in fairness, was amazing. Like, latched on fine, but was just so hungry. And she was feeding for an hour, like every other hour.
Oh God!
I was knackered. I remember.
It's like being a cow. It is like being a cow, isn't it?
The health visitor came round and she was like, "Right, you need to get that baby some formula now." And I was like, no, I want to breastfeed. And she was like, no, you're going to be so poorly. She said, you can breastfeed, but please do a bottle in between each breastfeed, because you're just going to waste away. And so then she was like, then you won't be capable of looking after baby. And I was like, I feel like I failed. And I had the opposite problem with Sophia, because, like, Sophia loved breastfeeding, wouldn't take a bottle, would not even take breast milk in a bottle. So I went back to work when she was 6 months old, and we had like 3 weeks of just days of screaming. She would starve herself until I eventually burst into tears and gave in and fed her. And once we got sorted, she was fine.
They're stubborn little biters, aren't they, kids?
Yeah, no, she knows how to get her own way. But yeah, but I was one of those lucky people who just found it really easy.
Yeah, I love it.
I had loads of milk. So yeah, I was very lucky, because I know some people want to.
So when you first give birth and that first attack, did you feel your muscles literally?
It's a womb. It's a womb contracting.
It's like a weird.
Horrible.
Yeah, you think, hold on, what's that? Nobody told me about that. Nobody.
I remember I'd like dread the girls wanting a feed, because I was like, oh God, it's gonna hurt again.
Oh God, it's awful. And the emotional stuff. Charlotte came back from hospital the first night, right? And I'd been in hospital, so I'd been through a bit of a thing, and Charlotte had been through a lot, right? Well, you showed me the bottom of your glass as well.
Oh, it's from IKEA.
Hello, I know, I love those glasses. Yeah, but she cried, right? Not for huge amounts of time, but she cried. And I can remember just completely breaking down and saying to my husband, I'm going to be the worst mother in the whole world.
Oh, you have baby blues.
Yeah, I was, for 2 years I had, horrible. It was just...
I, on the other hand, having suffered with mental health issues my entire life, was somehow absolutely fine both times.
Really?
And because I was seen as high risk, they thought I was going to have a lot of problems, so they did come and see me a bit more than they might have done in the first few weeks. But now I was fine. It was very bizarre.
No, you see, I was missed because my husband was working away a lot, so he used to come back. I was with both kids. I was in the house with both kids, and he would go away on Sunday night.
You off anyway, isn't it?
He'd go away on Sunday night and come back Friday night. So I just saved all the arguments for them, right? So he didn't really see me, and it wasn't until I went for one of the kids, like an injection, and the midwife or the nurse said, "Are you all right?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm fine." And she literally got on the phone and called my husband in from his office and said, you do realise your wife's got... And he said, no. And so and this was 2 years after the first one, 2 years after the second one, this is what, and he had
oh my gosh.
Yeah, hadn't even
well, says a lot, doesn't it?
It says a lot, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And can I just, last one, did your feet grow?
No.
No?
They swelled?
Oh no, did they grow
like size?
Proper, gone up a size. Yeah, mine did.
What the hell? No, that's not normal.
It is. You're not normal having tiny little feet. No, it is apparently. Yes,
they were like puddings, but they were still a size 6.
No,
just twice
mine were up at least. Mine were up at 1.5 sizes after the birth, and during the pregnancy, and then it only came down half a size. Swear to God. So if you want some shoes, I still got them in my wardrobe.
Yeah, so it's a magical time anyway, the whole...
And the thing I liked best, libido. Do you remember what that was?
Do you know what? It actually didn't bother me. Even though I was so poorly when I was pregnant, I was fine throughout. And literally, within about a week afterwards, I was ready to go.
Me? Oh, no, not me. No. When he said
it
didn't bother you...
more trauma to...
When it didn't bother you, I thought you meant libido. No, I didn't want to go near anybody. But and it was more like, I'm not letting you see what's down there. No way you're going down there afterwards.
I was the opposite way, actually. But the issue, I don't know if I'm going to share this detail. This will crack you up. I remember, so the first time after we'd had Ruby, and I was like, so it was about probably about 8 days after she was born. And I was like, I can't wait any longer. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. We'll obviously take precautions. So afterwards, I was like, that was amazing. Woo! Needed to get that out of my system. How was it for you? And he's like, well, it was good, but it was a bit roomy. I was just like, what?
Lemon.
I was honestly horrified, and I was like, right, I'm literally going to sit and do my Kegels all day long.
I still do it, But
I did.
I think I didn't because of the stitches, but you didn't have stitches, so yeah. But I'm not putting out people having babies. Have them. It's great.
Worth it. Do you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world. Yes, it could have been a lot easier and a lot less painful. However, I have got 2 absolutely gorgeous kids. You've got 2 grown up, amazing, successful children.
I love them. I do. I love them, and I would never ever. Look.
Don't get emotional. Drink some more gin. Well, yes.
What are we doing next week?
We will be talking, and I'm really looking forward to this one, as I think you are as well, because if you look at me, you can understand why. We're talking about tattoos and piercings. Yay! I'm very excited. And when lockdown's over, I'm totally off with some more ink. But I'll say that till next week. So yeah,
okay,
that's that. So thank you for joining us.
Subscribe.
We will see you next week. Thank you.
Three. Sweet and peachy.